All right, what you see here is my Aragon watch collection. I had no idea this was even going to happen. I had no idea what these watches were. I think I'm done. Ha ha ha! Laughter from the peanut gallery. No more. I'm not buying any more watches. Ha 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 ha. Okay. I've bought a lot of watches over the last few months. This is a new thing for me, and I discovered these Aragons because of this very first one here. And this, I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to get too into it. I spec'd it out. I took out the calipers. I showed you everything about it. This is I think they call this the Regeneron. I don't know if this is first generation. I don't know what. I don't know anything. I don't know a lot of history. I know who Wing is. I started watching his videos. I dig what he's doing. He's putting workhorse, known movements into these watches that he's designing, and is just doing an amazing job on the specs. Love everything about it. But these are 50 millimeter watches, man. And that's a large watch for most people. It's not something I even thought I would wear ever. And that's when I determined that, or learned that I actually don't have a tiny wrist. I have a 5/8 inch wrist, which means I can wear this watch. It actually looks pretty good, I think, on my wrist. Let me get into the rest of these. Okay, now the second one here, I don't know what this is called. I mean, it was kind of listed as bioluminescent. I'll try to remember to do some lume shots at the end of this. The entire bracelet has lume in it. I don't know that I'm going to get super crazy about all the details on each one of these watches. I may do individual videos coming up on each individual watch. When I saw this, I didn't think it was something I would ever be into. I think it's got a little dust on the lens here. But after I picked this up, I discovered I actually like it. Something on the lens here. Okay. So, yeah, it was funny because the color, I don't know. The blue's a little feminine for me personally. I love what he's doing. I love these applied indices here on that dial. And I love that you can see all the numbers, which they appear to be applied as well. You can see the frames around the numbers, and the color is fill. And that's all lume, by the way. Nice sunburst on the dial. Again, I mean, it's a 50 millimeter watch, but it wears fine. Now, the nice thing about this particular one, 4 o'clock crown. So with a 4 o'clock crown and a 50 millimeter watch, not too bad on the wrist. I find that if you're going to wear these bracelets with a 50 millimeter watch and it's so large, I mean, it stands off the wrist pretty high here. It moves, You kind of want the band to be a little more on the snug side. Not so much it's cutting off any circulation. I can still slide this up and down my wrist. But you want to be able to lock it up here in place so it's not constantly sliding down your wrist and hitting the top of your hand. Okay, but this was the second one. I actually bought this one and the black one at about the same time. And we'll take a look at that one next. So all these watches other than this one are 50 mil. This is a 45. And what I was doing this as an experiment for myself. I want you to keep in mind now, all these watches were used except for this one. This one, the 3 of them came with boxes, including this one. And this one was new in the box. Still had all the plastic wrap on the bracelet, everything. And I love this gear detail on the edge of the bezel. Really neat. But as I was about to say, this is a 45 millimeter. And I have to tell you, I feel like this is the perfect size for me, personally, on the wrist. I just think that looks right. It's larger than a Seiko. Talk about the diameter, right? I really like the blue dial on this watch. I like that it's black. It's just tough. I don't know how well this would hold up. I'm not sure I would wear it. I wouldn't wear any of these to work. I have, with the exception of the Bioluminescent. I've worn every one of these for a day at the shop. And these are not practical watches to wear to work. Right? It's just too much They slide down on your wrist. They start biting down into the top of your wrist. I work with my hands a lot. Let's take a look at the details on this one since I have it out. I should do a, like I said, an individual video on all of these. I love that the chapter ring is cut out and the indices fit into it. I love the position of the date wheel. See number 23 there at 4 o'clock. Again, 4 o'clock crown, signed crown. Applied indices, beautiful blue dial, sunburst here. Got some schmutz on the lens here. Just remember to pause the camera to do that. But yeah, it's a beautiful watch. And again, tough. I just like the black. And all loomed. I mean, this whole bezel is loomed. All the indices are loomed. The hands are loomed. A little pip on the end of the little lollipop, I suppose you call it, on that red second hand loomed. NH35 movement, I suppose. The watch, I'm too far on out on zoom here. This would be an NH36, NH35, NH36, NH35, but this one is special. We'll get to that in a moment. One of the things you'll see that I'm doing here with these watches is, I'll show you how easy it is to set this up, hopefully, is you can set all these watches up this way because the, excuse me, these bands, the bracelets, the links, they're so robust that they actually hold themselves up like this. You can set this up on a table. It becomes a table clock. Now, that's a Dive Master. This is another Dive Master, and this is a beautiful watch, man. And I got this for well under $100 because it has a scratch on the lens. See it right here, right across, right above the 50, goes across the bezel insert and across the top of the glass. It doesn't bother me because when I'm wearing it, I don't see it. I don't really notice it unless I'm looking for it. How beautiful! And by the way, I've said it before. This is the exception over here. You'll see it in a moment. I'm not crazy about busy dials, and I prefer simple, and I like black, right? Which is why that's an outlier, right? I like the blue, obviously, but I like a classic design. This watch has an optical illusion that makes it look like it has a domed crystal. It's actually flat across the top, but I think it has a dome inside the glass, which gives it that illusion. And I love that the bezel insert is tapered. See that? It's chamfered, kind of ramps up towards. We'll have to do a video just on the details of this. I don't want to keep this video super long. Show you a couple of the close-ups of this. Again, it's always as the same with this guy Wing. Applied indices, beautiful job. I mean, it's just. This is kind of like, I suppose, it kind of looks like a Submariner to a certain extent, right? Every watch company these days has a Submariner homage. But, 200-meter water resistance. I think they all are, again, with the exception of the next one, which is really special. Signed crown. They all have a visible movement. You can see that through the back here. Beautiful watches. Now, the neat thing about this watch here is because of the the glass on the back, you have to put kind of a domed back on it, which lifts it up off your wrist. So you've got a cushion. It's not a cushion case like a Seiko, but you end up with that effect because of the way it wears on the wrist. It lifts up off the skin. Back you out of here, which makes it more comfortable. Now, this watch does slide down, and it will start cutting into the top of your hand if you're working with it. I wore it in the shop the other day. I thought I could use this as a work watch. Now, I'll be using my Seikos and my Willard knockoff watches more so in the shop as a work watch. But I just love the look of this watch, man. I think this is just, it could be my favorite one here. Well, now, hang on a second. This one here is where I break from all of my typical beliefs because it is a busy dial. So, and if you look here closely, This is actually an Android. So as I was doing my research on Wing, I learned, as everybody watching now probably knows, if you know what these watches are, excuse me, it started off as Android. And I think it was Google that they had some sort of dispute or something, and I believe that Google bought him out on using this name, and then it went to Aragon. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to look for an Android version, because if I'm going to have a little collection of these watches, I think it would be neat to have, excuse me, I think it would be neat to have a version labeled as Android. And one of the other things I always wanted was a visible power reserve. All right. And I'm not crazy about these inner dials on the dial, because typically they're like a different color and they've got different textures on the dial and it gets too busy. But I spotted this watch and I thought, wow, it's cool because it's all black. So at first glance, when it's on the wrist from far away, you don't really notice it all that much. You're going to see it all more now because it's the highlight, so it's at the center of your screen right now. The one thing I don't like about this style that I see in a lot of these watches, and it's 100% superfluous and a waste of time, don't even put it on the dial, is the 24-hour wheel. Right now, the minute hand is hovering over it. You should know what 24-hour time is. You don't need a wheel to see that. It's just silly. Not only that, now that I'm looking on the dial, you see the 20 at this indice. You see 21 at this indice. That's the 9 o'clock, right? 22 at 10 o'clock. It already has the 24-hour markers on it. You don't need that dial. It's a waste of time. But it is kind of neat that it has the day on there. That's neat, right? It's kind of neat that it has the month. That's amazing. It has the month. Now, a couple different ways to set the month. You can roll through this when you're setting it, and you see the number right here, which I also love. The only thing I don't love about it is that it's white. I feel like that should be black with white letters or red letters, but it does help you find it. It is pretty tiny on there. But the fact that it's the month. So what I was doing is I was turning the crown. It was going through the months. And then I realized, oh, yeah, but there's this. Now, I thought this was a helium escape valve, because this watch is good to 500 meters. That's 1,650 feet. The other thing about this, it has a Miyota movement. It's the 9100. That's 28,800 vibrations per hour. So you'll notice that this second hand, it sweeps pretty nicely. Now, the other thing you're going to see right here is other people would yell at me for this. Here's the problem with this watch. I modified it. I'm going to show you what I did. I'm explaining to you why. And I'm not done with it. This is a work in progress, because I want to show this again when I finish it. It's not a priority for me. This one's a little... I kept this one snug on purpose because I was wearing this. I got it. And then I was doing my stew the other morning. I got to loosen this one up. It's kind of tight on me. It's a little warmer today than when I originally set it. So I was chopping vegetables with this watch on. And I was getting a slice in my skin here from the edge of the case. And the crown was digging in. Bad. Like, extremely uncomfortable. Look how beautiful this bracelet is. It was extremely, extremely uncomfortable. And I took it off and I'm looking at this thing like, I don't understand. Why would you make a watch 50 millimeters, right? I'm going to demonstrate how sharp this edge is, because I haven't touched this edge yet. You see, look how sharp the back of this is. I could take my fingernail on this. I could cut my fingernail. Oh, I'm showing that. You see that? That's how sharp this is. That's ridiculous. This whole bottom edge should have been chamfered. Now, this is an older watch. It's an Android. Maybe it's when he started. I don't know. I decided when I saw this watch that I was going to keep this for myself. This is going to be my own watch. I don't plan on these other watches. Yeah, maybe I'll sell them. Who knows? I'm keeping this. This is the only watch I'll own that has all of these, I don't know, what do you call these? Complications? With the month and the day and everything else. I dig it. It's tough looking. It's me. 100% me. I chamfered this with a Dremel in about a minute. right here, and on the bottom of the crown. Now people are going to go, you ruined that watch. I didn't if it's mine. Now I'm not done with this. I'm going to polish that out. You'll never know. It'll look almost factory when I'm done with it. It looks rougher than it is right now. And you can see this edge here. Same thing. I'm not done. I'm going to actually take way more off on that. And the same thing on this edge here. And the same thing on this back edge, although it doesn't need it as much. But I'm going to chamfer that as well. There's plenty of meat on this case. I'm going to do that. I'm going to eyeball it, get it real close, and then I'm going to polish it, all with the Dremel. And when I'm done, first of all, you can't tell anyhow from here. You can't tell from here. When it's on the wrist, I open and close the crown many times. This is where it stops every time, so I know that's the bottom edge. I'll probably take this corner off here a little bit more. See if I can get this to spin for you. This Miyota movement, look at that. You give it a little, it's really free. Compared to the NH35s or NH36s, it'll, I don't know how to do it for you. Sometimes when I hit it right, it'll just spin freely like crazy. Beautiful. Now, I'm going to show you this power reserve. You can see where it's at right now. It's right up here. It says it right there. I'm going to wind this crown for you. Let's unlock it. Watch the power reserve. It takes about 50 turns from 0. Look at that move. So at a glance, this thing tells you when you need to wind it, which I think is, you know, super, super cool. Tighten this back up again. There we go. And as I said, it always locks down in that direction, so that bottom chamfer is fine. I feel like I'm not going to do it, but I feel like the entire edge of this crown should be chamfered. Obviously, the whole bottom of this case needs to be chamfered. It's really interesting because this one also has drilled lugs. You know, if you wanted to change the band out, that makes it a lot easier. I'm kind of shocked by that because as I've said before with these Aragon watches, the neat thing about them with the bracelets is that the bracelets are integral to the overall design. These are just beautiful. I had to add, here's the crazy thing. Every one of these used watches, fortunately, they came with all the extra links. I've had to add links to every, well, this one was new. I guess that one was new in the box too. I think it did have some plastic still on it. I had to take a link out. I had to take a link out of another one, I suppose. I can't remember. But no. I had to add links to all of them. Right. I had to take a couple links out of this one, a link out of this one. The rest of them, I had to add the links. Fortunately, they all came with the extra links. And that's the weird thing to me, because this one had 3 or 4 links removed. I think I put 2 or 3 links back in it, at least 2. And that makes me really wonder, like, who was wearing this? Like, if you had such a tiny wrist, you had hardly any links on this thing, how the heck did you wear it? And this one was cruddy. When I got this had funk in the links, it had funk on the back, in the little spots where you have to put the tool to remove the back. It was some yellow funk, like, I don't know what the hell it was, but I hit it with a fingernail brush and soapy water, cleaned it right up. This really is a piece of jewelry. I mean, that's kind of how you have to see it. And as I was saying on these things, you know, you can wear this throughout the day. The large watch doesn't bother me just to wear. Like tonight I'm doing the radio show again, Outlaw Radio, Magic Matt Allen, ALAN. If you go to YouTube, he's doing this podcast now there on Saturdays. He does a morning show every morning that's on, I think they call it terrestrial radio. I think it's like Sirius XM, and I don't know. I don't have any of those things. But he's on regular radio morning shows all across the country. He's been doing this for decades, 30 or 40 years or more. And on Saturdays, he does a podcast. He asked me on as a guest to this week. Here's the 6th week now. He just keeps asking me back, so I must be doing something right. So every week I'm wearing a different watch. I might be wearing this one tonight. So to do that, like sitting down at a desk, doing a radio show or something, walking around, going out to dinner, if you don't have a super active lifestyle, I suppose, or if you're not working with your hands, these watches are all fantastic. The trick on this is get the bracelet down, lock the back side, push the front side in, and that's how you lock them in place if you want to display it on your desk like this. Pretty neat. So I don't want to go crazy right now. I'm excited about these watches. The one thing you should be able to tell with me with these Aragons is these are all still relatively simple. I mean, the kooky loom on this is kooky, right? This has all kinds of complications that have been around for quite some time. It just makes it super neat. This has a nice classic vibe, again, very close to, the Submariner. And this is just a super tough, badass watch, right? And as is this, even though it's freaking huge. It's huge. But this one here wears way more comfortable than even this one does here. So that's why I'm going to change it up. And this is just so tough, man. I just love the knurling on this one. I think there's one of these available for around 200 bucks on eBay. I'm not sure. I feel like if you could get any of these for around 200 bucks, 250 or less, I think you're getting a really good deal on a watch. I'm not trying to spend that kind of money. Every one of these was right around $100 or less. I think some of them were around the 140 range, just because this was brand new in the box. I made the guy an offer. It didn't sell and he took it. This is the one I paid up for, just because of the complications in it. It was under $300. It was $270 or something. I just couldn't help myself. It just seems super rare to me. I've been staring at watches for months. I've been looking at Aragons for over a month now. And I see some of the androids, but in my opinion, a lot of what he does is the colors are too much. Look, the purple and the yellow and the gold, they're beautiful to look at, but they're just not me. I can't wear that shit. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. So to me, this was like, even though it's complicated as far as, again, the complications, it has a classic vibe to me. It just looks simple and clean because of the black dial and the black bezel. So, yeah, that's it for now. This is my official Aragon watch collection. I don't know if it's going to keep growing. I suppose anything is possible. Who knows? Maybe Wing will see this and go, you know what, this guy, I should make this guy like I can't get this one to set up now. We should make him like an official spokesperson for Aragon, because he's going to wear it in the shop and see how well it actually holds up. I don't know. That's a fantasy. It's not going to happen. Anyhow, let me see if I can figure out a way to do some loom. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. You'll see it in the future, because I will probably do longer videos on each of these separately. I still have more Seikos than I do Aragons. So, that's saying something. I get obsessive about things. I get into something, I go deep on it, and I buy them, and I get it, and I make it happen. I find the best deals possible. I am a hunter. I was raised to be a hunter, and I will sniff things out. I will find what I am looking for, and patience and diligence, two important traits to have if you're going to do this sort of thing. And then, I'll contact people. I'll say, hey, you have this thing listed here. I don't know how long you had it listed. Here's my thoughts on it, And a lot of the time, solid 70 to 80% of the time, people take me up on the offer I make them, even if it doesn't say buy it now or make a best offer. So, that's saying something. Don't be afraid to ask. The answer is always going to be no if you never ask. That's it for now. Again, if you see some loom, you'll see it. And if not, have a great day. And remember to be good to one another. I haven't eaten yet. My speech, I got low blood sugar. I'm going to pass out. I can't wear one of these watches. I'll just fall over. Okay, have a good day.